On February 28, 2026, the Middle East changed forever. In the early morning hours before most of the world had opened its eyes, the United States and Israel launched one of the most consequential military operations in decades. They called it Operation Epic Fury. And within the first 12 hours, 900 American strikes had already hit Iranian soil. By the time the sun rose over Tehran that first morning, 40 senior Iranian officials were dead, including the supreme leader himself, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, who had ruled the Islamic Republic for 34 years. This is not speculation. This is not rumor. Iranian state television confirmed it. The government declared 40 days of national mourning. And the world woke up to a war that had already rewritten history overnight. But here is what most coverage has missed. The raw numbers of this war are staggering, yes. But the numbers alone do not tell you what this war actually is, what it is becoming, and why 3 developments from the last 72 hours, one from Moscow, one from Beijing, and one from a port in Kuwait, fundamentally change every calculation on the table. So, let us go through this carefully, from the beginning. To understand Operation Epic Fury, you need to understand the 10 days that preceded it. In June 2025, Israel and Iran fought what history will call the 12-Day War. It ended with a U.S.-Qatar brokered ceasefire. Iran was damaged, but not dismantled. The regime survived. Its nuclear program survived. And the months that followed saw Iran quietly rebuilding. New underground launchers, deeper bunkers, expanded facilities carved into the Alborz Mountains. The ceasefire bought time, and Iran used every hour of it. By February 2026, the intelligence picture had deteriorated to the point where Washington and Jerusalem made a decision. Not to degrade Iran, not to contain Iran, to dismantle it. The operation began at dawn on February 28th with what the Israeli Defense Forces called Operation Roaring Lion, the opening strike package. According to confirmed IDF statements, 40 senior Iranian commanders were killed within the first minutes. Not over hours, not over days, minutes. Among them, the commander of the IRGC, the defense minister, the chief of the armed forces, and the secretary of the Supreme National Security Council. The entire top layer of Iran's military command was eliminated in a single coordinated wave, while they were gathered in one location, a meeting that the CIA had helped pinpoint, according to reporting from the New York Times. And then at that same compound in downtown Tehran, a strike killed Ayatollah Ali Khamenei himself. Let that land for a moment. The supreme leader of the Islamic Republic of Iran, the man who had controlled every lever of power in that country since 1989, was killed in a targeted airstrike on the first day of this operation. Iranian state media confirmed it. Satellite photographs from Airbus confirmed the destruction of his compound. The government declared 40 days of mourning. 34 years of his rule ended in a single morning. By the end of day 1, the U.S. had conducted 900 strikes inside Iran. The Israeli Air Force had simultaneously run over 200 sorties, hitting nearly 500 targets, the largest single-day air operation in Israeli Air Force history. Together, U.S. and Israeli forces had launched the most intense opening air campaign since the Gulf War. Now look at what came next, because the pace did not slow down. It accelerated. By the end of the first week, U.S. total strikes inside Iran had crossed 3,000 confirmed targets. Israel had dropped over 6,000 munitions across 2,500 confirmed strikes. Combined, the two forces had put more firepower into Iran in 7 days than many militaries deploy in years of conflict. And the results are documented. Iran's air defense network, the S-300 systems, the Bavar 373, the radar installations, the command and control infrastructure, 80% of it is gone. That figure did not come from an anonymous Pentagon official or a war room analyst. It came directly from IDF Chief of Staff Lieutenant General Eyal Zamir, confirmed on the record in public. 80% of Iran's entire air defense architecture eliminated. The Israeli Air Force declared air superiority over Tehran on March 1st. The missile launcher picture is equally stark. 60% of Iran's ballistic missile launchers, the fixed sites, the mobile platforms, the hardened bunkers, 60% confirmed destroyed. Iranian ballistic missile launches against U.S. and allied forces have fallen 86% from their peak on day 1. Drone attacks are down over 70%. The rate of Iranian fire has collapsed, not because Iran chose to stop, but because the weapons and the systems to fire them are being systematically hunted and removed. And then there is the drone carrier. Admiral Brad Cooper, commander of U.S. Central Command, confirmed in a live press briefing that U.S. forces struck the Iris Shahid Bagheri, Iran's drone carrier ship, described by Cooper himself as roughly the size of a World War II aircraft carrier. At the moment Cooper spoke those words, the vessel was still on fire. Iran's entire surface navy has since been declared combat ineffective by the U.S. Secretary of Defense. BBC Verify, using satellite imagery, confirmed the destruction of at least 11 Iranian naval vessels. The targeting went beyond weapons. Iran's Space Command, the facility that controls Iran's ability to use satellites for battlefield awareness, for targeting data, for relaying intelligence to military commanders, destroyed in a single strike. When you destroy a country's space command, you do not just take out a building, you blind them from orbit. You remove their ability to see where forces are moving, where warships are sailing, where aircraft are based. Iran lost its own eyes in that strike. Its own eyes in that strike. The IRGC's headquarters in Tehran? Destroyed. The IRGC's Vali Asr barracks? Struck. Iran's national broadcaster IRIB struck and confirmed destroyed by the IDF, which said the IRGC had been using it for military purposes. The Assembly of Experts building in Qom, the very body responsible for choosing a new supreme leader, struck while its members were inside. The Supreme National Security Council headquarters? Gone. Iran's parliament building targeted. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth stood at CENTCOM and said it plainly. The amount of firepower over Iran and over Tehran, he said, is about to surge dramatically. Now here's where the story becomes more complicated, and where the war becomes genuinely more dangerous. Because Iran is not silent. Iran is not finished. And 3 developments in the last 72 hours reveal a war that is far more complex than the raw strike numbers suggest. First, the human cost. Over 1,200 Iranian civilians have been killed, according to Reuters, reporting based on Iranian Health Ministry figures. Among the dead are 175 schoolgirls and staff killed in a missile strike on a primary school in Minab. That figure does not belong in a footnote. It belongs front and center in any honest account of this war. Civilian casualties are not a byproduct of this conflict. They are part of the documented record, and they will shape how this war is judged by history. Second, American losses. 7 American service members have been killed since Operation Epic Fury began. 6 were Army reservists, killed on March 1st in an Iranian drone strike at Shuaibah Port in Kuwait, a temporary command center, a facility with no public footprint, the kind of location that should have been invisible to an enemy whose surveillance network had been systematically dismantled. A 7th soldier died from wounds sustained in a separate Iranian attack in Saudi Arabia. And the United States has also lost nearly $2 billion worth of military equipment in the first 4 days of combat alone, including 3 F-15E Strike Eagles lost to friendly fire in a case that CENTCOM confirmed is under investigation. That is not a complete victory. That is a war. Third, and this is the detail that changes the strategic picture entirely, Russia. Multiple U.S. officials confirmed to the Washington Post, NBC News, and Reuters that Russia has been providing Iran with real-time intelligence on the exact locations of American troops, ships, and aircraft across the Middle East. Not historical data, not general assessments, real-time targeting coordinates derived from Russian satellites that are watching every American military asset in the region and transmitting that information to Iranian strike commanders. One U.S. intelligence official described the Russian operation as a, quote, pretty comprehensive effort. And then look at what that means when you hold it against the attack in Kuwait. An Iranian drone struck a temporary command center at Shuaibah Port, a structure that appeared on no public map, in a location that Iran's own degraded surveillance network, with its space command destroyed and its satellite infrastructure collapsed, had no logical pathway to find independently. U.S. Army memos confirmed that Iranian forces appeared to have surveilled the facility before the strike. Russia provided the coordinates. Iran fired the drone. 6 Americans died. When President Trump was asked directly by Fox News reporter Peter Doocy whether Russia was helping Iran kill American troops, Trump called it a stupid question and refused to engage. A nuclear-armed adversary is reportedly feeding targeting intelligence to an enemy actively killing American soldiers, and the President of the United States called the question stupid. That exchange will matter when historians write the first chapter of this war. Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi, in a live interview with NBC News, was asked about Russian support. He smiled and said, "They are supporting us politically and otherwise." He was asked what otherwise means. He declined to say. He said, "I'm not going to give the details of our cooperation with other countries right in the middle of a war." That is not a denial. A foreign minister who wanted to deny Russian military intelligence assistance would deny it. Araghchi did not deny it. He confirmed it in the only language a diplomat uses when the truth is too dangerous to speak directly. Which brings us to China. U.S. intelligence has assessed, per CNN reporting, that Beijing may be preparing to provide Iran with financial assistance, spare parts, and missile components, not weapons delivered directly to Iranian forces, but supply chain support that would allow Tehran to keep its remaining systems operational and eventually begin reconstituting what has been destroyed. China has stayed out of direct involvement so far, but Beijing depends on Iranian oil, and every day the Strait of Hormuz remains disrupted costs China billions in energy imports. China wants this war to end, but if it does not end fast enough, and if Iran's military capability collapses completely before any settlement, China loses its most strategically important regional partner for a generation. that calculation is shifting. Now look at what Iran itself is doing in these final hours. Iran has reached out to the CIA to explore terms for ending the war, according to Jerusalem Post, reporting citing U.S. officials. Publicly, Foreign Minister Araghchi told NBC News that Iran is not asking for a ceasefire and sees no reason to negotiate with the United States. But privately, the outreach happened. That gap between the public defiance and the private signal is one of the most important signals in this entire conflict. It means Iran's surviving leadership understands the situation on the ground, even if they cannot say so out loud. And on March 8th, Iran named a new supreme leader. The Assembly of Experts, the same body whose building had been struck in Qom, confirmed Mojtaba Khamenei, the son of the assassinated supreme leader, as his father's successor. The Islamic Republic is not collapsing, it is adapting. A new leadership has been installed. The institutional structure of the regime, though battered, is attempting to continue. That is the complete picture. The United States and Israel have delivered a military campaign of historic intensity. They have killed Iran's top leadership, destroyed the majority of its air defense network, crippled its missile launch capability, sunk its navy, obliterated its space intelligence infrastructure, and struck the institutional buildings of the Iranian state. They have achieved air superiority over Tehran. They have confirmed the first ever air-to-air kill by an F-35 in combat history. An Israeli F-35I Adir shot down an Iranian Yak 130 trainer aircraft over Tehran, because that is all Iran had left to send into the sky against a fifth-generation stealth fighter. And at the same time, 7 Americans are dead. Russia is actively working to kill more. China is weighing whether to enter the supply chain. Iran has a new supreme leader. Iran is still firing. The war has entered its second week with no ceasefire in sight, with Trump demanding unconditional surrender, and with Hegseth promising the firepower surge has only just begun. CENTCOM. Commander Admiral Brad Cooper has made one statement that defines where this operation is now heading. He said, and read this carefully, "We are not just hitting what they have. We are destroying their ability to rebuild, not their current stockpile, not their existing launchers, their ability to ever reconstitute, every missile factory, every production facility, every underground manufacturing complex, every parts depot and assembly plant. The industrial ecosystem of Iranian military power is now the primary target of Phase 2. If Iran's surviving leadership accepts that reality and opens genuine negotiations, the industrial strikes stop. If Russian intelligence coordinates keep flowing and American casualties keep climbing, Washington has every political justification to escalate further. And if China moves from observation to active resupply, this stops being a regional military campaign and becomes something that no power on Earth currently has a complete contingency plan for. The strikes are documented. The casualties are real on both sides. The new supreme leader has been named. The Russian intelligence pipeline is confirmed. The Chinese calculation is shifting. And according to the man running this war from CENTCOM, the firepower is about to surge dramatically. The only question now is whether anyone at the table in Tehran is ready to make a decision before Phase 2 makes the decision for them.